So I have a 599 GTB Fiorano, which is, to me, a new car. But truth be told, it's a 2007. So it's coming up on, over 15 years old. And it's a pretty fantastic car when you consider 15 years old. I think that these cars are actually fully depreciated. And when you think about it, so these price somewhere between 150, maybe even 140 to as high as, let's say, 170 I've seen. They're not the GTOs and all that other stuff. This is just a regular 599 GTB. But what a lot of car for that kind of money. I mean, yeah, it's a six-figure car, but when you think about the performance that this car has, and I'll put the specs in it so that you can see, but pretty impressive specs, and V12, so it's a serious car. I mean, front engine, rear drive, basically following Ferrari, where they have the big V12 car of the lineup, and that's this car. 20-inch wheels, carbon ceramic brakes on this one. Interior is beautiful. I mean, it has the contrasting stitching, and so it's got the blue with the Daytona stripes, and the carbon seats, carbon shells in the back. A lot of carbon accents on this car. Only complaint I have with this age of car is everything is starting to get sticky. Everything gets this layer of stickiness that you basically have to remove and clean up. And you could see it, it's all gooey. You touch it, it gets on your clothes, it gets on your hands. Anybody who owns a Ferrari that's older than, let's say, 5-8 years old has to deal with sticky panels. And some of them, the dash has to be disassembled to get to them. I know some cars have it in the vents and the air conditioning vent areas, and then some of the stuff is in the dash. Some of them are relatively easy to clean, but it's just one of those things where I just don't understand why they continue to use it, knowing that these cars have that problem. Porsches do it too. I think the same panels are on Porsches, but everywhere you look, you just have stuff that is just getting sticky. Anyway, enough complaining. The rest of the car is pretty spectacular. One of the things I really love about the 599 is this flying buttress wing arrow styling. It's really cool. I mean, the shape of the rear window is just this oval that wraps all the way around. It breaks it up because what they did was they put this flying buttress in to, I mean, I'm sure it's also for aerodynamics. It comes back, and you really get good airflow through the car. I'm sure it's high speed stability, but it's a pretty neat look. It's a big car, and it definitely has a lot of road presence. Front stance on this car, pretty good looking. I think it's a pretty good looking car. Okay, 599 GTB Fiorano. It's got an F1 gearbox, and so you start it up, as you saw, and you can start it in automatic, which I'll show you because it's an auto. There's a button here for auto, and you start there. It's a neutral. Double click the paddles, it's a neutral. So we're just sitting here at idle. I just let the parking brake go, so I'm going to click it in first gear, and it engages first, but it's an auto still. So I usually let off the brake and go on the gas, and it automatically releases the clutch, and we're on our way. This car has, a third generation. I have to look at how many. I'm going to admit, I'm not an expert on these cars. cars, but they every F1 transmission that comes out from Ferrari is better than the last one. So what happens is the newer ones are even better than this one. But as you can see, as it shifts in automatic, it does the and then goes in between gears, because it's a little, it reads the way you step on the pedal, it reads how much throttle you have, and it shifts accordingly. So like if you're doing a slow roll into the gears, it's not going to jam the gears and slam them between gears. If you actually get on the gas a little bit, it will shift a little bit more crisply. For instance, in short shifts. So right now I'm already in 6th gear. I'm doing about 45 miles an hour, and we're already in 6th gear. So what it does is it's designed to just kind of run, you know, just short shift when you're just puttering along. I always equate these cars as like the big boys of the of the Ferrari lineup. I mean, it's the 2-seat V12. You know, you go to a Ferrari dealership and you have your options. You can either buy a 2-seat V12 car, a 2-seat V8 car, or you can buy the 2+2 car, or you can buy a convertible. And this is if you went into the dealership in 2007, this is what you would get if you wanted a V12, or if you could get a V12 Ferrari. This is the one they would sell you. And it's definitely a GT car, although it can handle the back roads, but it just is just a big cruiser. I mean, lots of power, it's very comfortable, lots of room. I look at some of my clients and you know, the V8 cars, they tend to feel a little bit lower. They're a little bit more compact. They have this feel of a boy racer. This car does not feel like a boy racer. This car has you know, just a lot of meat to it. Big, heavy. You know, V12 Ferraris, I tend to feel like they feel like you know, swinging a big hammer. And you can hear the engine. It's got this good growl. It's got the exhaust valves that open when you get on the gas a little bit. So, and then what we can do is I'll show you. I'll shift into manual mode, and I'll downshift a little bit. You know, it's as easy as just clicking the paddles, and you're into the next gear. I mean, that's the thing that I'm starting to, you know, say, where, you know, you have all this, everybody's talking about saving the manuals. Well, you know, I'm not one of the, I'm starting to change my mind, because you're starting to look at these cars with so much power and so much speed that the manual tends to slow things down. I think that there's a certain power that you can have with a manual that can be a lot of fun, but at a certain point, the machine needs to have, you know, it's kind of like a fighter pilot, right? I mean, right now with fighter planes, they are outperforming the pilots. And yes, we as humans want to be in control, but you know, it gets to the point where, you know, the drones and things like that, that don't have to worry about hurting the human. That's why, you know, those are becoming more successful. But listen to this engine. I mean, that's 100 miles an hour without even full throttle. I mean, I'm not beating on this car. We're just so effortlessly, you know, going through the gears, and it's easy to drive. I mean, you know, I just took my daughter out for the first time. She drove the first Ferrari, and this was the car, because I realized when it was here that, oh my God, this car, you don't even have to know how to drive a manual, and you could drive your first Ferrari. So I actually put her in one, and you know, the experience of it is for everyone, basically. I mean, anybody can drive one of these things. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty fantastic car. I mean, a lot of performance. The other thing that I really think on these Fiораnos is everybody who is into Ferraris or into any car. I mean, like if you're a car guy, you're always looking for the next car. You're always looking for the next, you know, what can I afford? Can I afford this? You know, I really want a Ferrari. What's the cheapest Ferrari I can buy? You know, now admittedly, these are still six-figure cars, but you know what? I think that these are really a great buy for several reasons. One is that, first off, as you can see, lots of technology. I mean, paddle shifters, Formula One, real clutch. It's a single clutch automatic. It's not a dual clutch, so it's not as sophisticated as the newer cars. But yeah, it's still much better than the first generation cars, you know. Road in the F40, and you could do the same thing. It has the same explosive power, but this makes it so easy to drive. It's just crazy. I mean, you literally sit here and catch your breath because you can attain so much speed in these cars with these paddle shifters. You know, if I were doing that in the F40, you know, I gotta really be engaged. This is just like sit, push button, and go. So anyway, going back to what I was saying about the 599, you know, we look at these cars and think about, well, when are they fully depreciated? This car was a $300,000 car. I mean, back in the day, high twos or something. I have to look at the sticker. I'll show you the sticker. But the idea of it is that when you think about what that car is, and then it depreciates down to the twos, then it depreciates down into the high 100s. Right now, this car is in the mid to high $100,000. Now, look, I couldn't afford this car right now, but I'll tell you what, if you're looking at buying a car and you said, look, I'll just sell everything, I'll pull all my money together and I'll buy one car, you know, this could be it. I mean, it's like when you think about what can be done with it. I mean, if someone in your family, if your wife doesn't drive a stick and you want to take her along on a road trip, this is perfect because, you know, people who can't drive a stick can drive this car. The other thing is, it's got tons of power. It'll drive these curvy little roads without a problem. If you really want to get on it, you can go. It's got tons of power. You know, again, I keep saying it over and over again, but it's pretty amazing. And then the other nice thing about the 599 is no belt service. It's got chains. So one of the things that held a lot of people back from Ferraris is the cost of maintenance. You know, with even if you bought a cheap 355, now 355, okay, F1 transmission cars are probably in the under $100,000, maybe you can get them, but the stick cars are now going for 120, 130, 140, 150, you know, because people are starting to really want the sticks. The problem with the 355 is if you spend that kind of money, you have to basically do an engine out service every 5 years if you want to go by the service interval that Ferrari suggests. Every 5 years, you have to pull that engine out and change the timing belt and do all the other things that while you're at it go. And, you know, minimum I've heard is 8,000, you know, because when you take the rear sub chassis, the subframe out with the engine cradle, you've got all this other stuff that you should do. Oh, now's the time to do the suspension bushings. Now's the time to do the brakes while you have it out. Now's the time to do the clutch. And, you know, it never is just a timing belt. On this car, it is fluids. It's a chain-driven camshaft. So what happens with that means that you don't have to change it every 5 years. The most important thing on chain cars is you have to do regular oil changes. I mean, chains stretch and they go out of spec and they get too long. And sometimes, I mean, obviously it's just from regular use, but another thing that kills chains is just not changing the oil, you know, just going too long. I mean, and guys say, oh, I didn't drive the car, I didn't change the oil for a couple of years. Well, you know, that one time that you did drive the car, water got into the oil, and water is in suspension in that oil. Even if it was for 100 miles, that water that is in the oil is suspension, because the oil is designed to put moisture in suspension. then that sits in your crankcase and kind of collects. And if it's not suspended in the oil, it's collecting on the chain. Then what happens is there's corrosion on the chain gets weak, it stretches, all that stuff on a molecular level is probably not doing a good thing for the chain. So it's not a bad idea to change it. And this is not trying to sell you oil changes, but it's just, if you want a chain to last, do regular oil changes. Don't skip. It's not worth doing that. I mean, Jesus, think about it. How expensive is an oil change or compared to a timing chain replacement? Anyway, going back to this car. So when you think about what you're getting for your money, there's a point in which we watch Ferrari prices and we try to figure out when are they fully depreciated. Well, at some point, the parts are equal to more than the car's value. So in other words, at some point when the car falls down in resale value as a car, you start to look at how expensive all these parts are, because other guys need parts for these cars. So what ends up happening is, it's like, I need wheels. Well, they don't make these wheels anymore. Okay, well, I'll buy a set of 4 wheels for $5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand, because it's just like, these are good wheels. This car has the carbon ceramic brakes. There are parts that are specific to the carbon ceramic brakes. If somebody needs it, in this car where, let's say, because when we're talking about parts cars, they're wrecked. They're cars that just get wrecked and they just need to be, parted out. Well, those parts are still valuable, so somebody will buy it as a salvage car. A salvage car like this could be, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. But yet, when you buy it as a salvage, maybe even less, who knows? I'm not in the salvage market. But my point is, it's like, when you take the parts off of this car, and the guys who salvage them, they take them and then they sell each of the pieces and they'll make their money back. So at some point when these cars depreciate far enough, the sum of the parts are equal more than the whole car, and so the car doesn't really drop much lower than that salvage price or that parts price. So what ends up happening is, when this car is, let's say it goes to 140, 130, $110,000. At some point, it's like the cost of all the parts, more than 110. Why would you sell the car, cheaper than that? Because it's a running, driving car. So what ends up happening is people start realizing that that's the best value for the car. And then I also tell people, don't wait for these cars to hit rock bottom, because what I've seen this on all sorts of collector cars is they bounce off the bottom. And the phenomenon of that is that when you have a car that is depreciating and everybody's watching, because you're not the only one watching to see when they can buy a Ferrari. There are hundreds of guys out there who dream about owning a Ferrari, and they sit there and they watch the prices as well. So everybody's like, oh wow, did you see that one sell on Bring a Trailer for X amount of money, 160, 140? Wow, that was a great buy for 140. The next one that comes up, I'm going to pay 140. Then, let's say they're not people who are buying them because it's like, oh, they're too expensive still. So they go to like 140, 130, 100. Then all of a sudden, everybody sees, oh my God, did you see that 599 it sold for 120? I should have bought that for 120. And what ends up happening is the next one that sells, because everybody realizes what a great deal they were when the market actually goes down to 120 or 130. The next one goes for 135, 140. It bounces off the bottom of the market because everybody else realizes the same thing. Hey, have we reached the bottom and it's my time now to catch one, or I'm never going to catch one? And it never really sticks at the bottom for very long. It is better to buy one before it hits rock bottom. Look, if you pay $10,000 more for a car and then it hits rock bottom and then bounces off the bottom, you're still going to be fine, because you'll probably be the smartest guy because you had bought it a couple months. Like I said, it's the same thing on the market. It is better to sell at the top of the market, but not the tippy top, because when you try to sell something at the tippy top, it usually rolls over the top and plummets from the tippy top. And it's the same thing with the bottom of the market. You could try to buy something at the bottom of the market, but it will bounce off the bottom just like it falls off the top. So like my advice is always check the prices and look at it and consider what you're getting, and then make your decision. But anyway, I mean, that's enough about the market. But this car, I tell you, is just great. And I love the shape of it because it has very little aero. You know, it has the flying buttress, which I think is just gorgeous on this car. And it doesn't seem as big as the other ones. I mean, like when I first saw the 5.9, I was like, wow, that's a big car. But it's a V12 Ferrari. It's supposed to be big. It's supposed to be driving around in a big Hammer. But at the same time, it handles really well. It's got you know, a lot of technology. It's got the magnetic shocks, but they're not crazy Italian electric shocks. They're magnetic shocks. They're I think they're Adelphi's, but you know, so they're serviceable. These are items that can be serviced and can be fixed. You know, there's some things on this car that have to be done through a Ferrari dealer or independent that has the tools for the Ferrari, which is the transmission service and bleeding and all that other stuff. But you know, that's part of owning a Ferrari. I mean, if you didn't have that kind of stuff, you wouldn't. You could buy something a little bit more pedestrian. You know, it takes a little bit of an effort to own one of these things, but I tell you, when I'm looking at this car, it's like, oh my god, this is like just wonderful, and it's comfortable. It's got lots of room. It's you know, it's got an actual usable trunk on this car, and you know, good things. Okay, negatives. Let's go over some of the negatives. Negative is that it has the sticky gauge. It's a sticky panel. So yes, the panels will have to be addressed. If you just go ahead and bite the bullet and send it out to the sticky panel guys, which is there's 2 or 3 guys around the country that do it in the States. I'm sure there's places all over the world that do it. They clean them. They re-decal the lettering so you don't lose all the lettering. You can do it cheap. You can take it all off with denatured alcohol. It'll come off, but it'll take all the labels off. So that's the problem with that. What else is bad on this car? There really isn't much else. I mean, expensive, yes, it's got the carbon ceramic brakes, so you know, if you have to do a brake service, very, very expensive. But at the same time, they're pretty durable. These cars don't see a lot of miles. Like I just went out and did a quick 30-mile loop or a 20-mile loop, and you know, that's kind of what you do in the morning and take it out. Now that doesn't mean you can't drive it, but my point is, it's like, it is just, you know, they just don't see a lot of miles. This car is an 07, you know, 15-year-old car, and yet it has 10,000 miles on it. 10,000 glorious miles, needless to say. But at the same time, you know, they just don't see a lot of miles. And so they're not the things that just don't wear out the same way, like a car that you would normally put 50, 60,000 miles on. But, you know, something to keep an eye on. You know, 599 GTB Fiorano. It's a nice, you know, really good car to consider when you think about what you're getting for this kind of money. Yeah, you could go buy probably a new 911 or a Porsche or something like that, but you know what? There's a huge difference between, you know, Porsches and Ferraris in the sense of, like, for some reason it's just everybody thinks Ferrari, and sometimes I don't blame them. So hope you enjoyed the ride, and we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and all that good stuff with YouTube. I really enjoy sharing this stuff with everybody, but I would love to get more people to see it, just simply because I believe that there's interesting content, and if you like it too, then tell your friends and get people to watch it, and it'll inspire me to do more, because you know, it's I get access to these cars, and you know, if you like what you see and hear what I do, then let other people know, and the popularity of it will drive me to do more. So again, thanks for watching.